How will the devastating Los Angeles wildfires affect the Orange County housing market, as well as your ability to get insurance as a California homeowner? But first, we just want to say, our heart goes out to anyone who was affected by those wildfires. Just as, lifelong Southern Californians, we were really shocked, actually, by what happened. It seemed like it was just, like the perfect storm of horribleness.
There's a lot of things took place simultaneously that kind of led to obviously what we saw happen. Actually, we had friends that were affected by the fire, so it was really, again,
it was heartbreaking.
Yeah, it was a really sad situation that took place. And so it does kind of reset what one thinks of, okay, so how is insurance going to be affected? How does that affect the housing market in general? And obviously what we feel like, it'd be helpful for people to understand from our perspective. And again, this could change because we're still in the fog of war. So this is still very early stages as far as what the ramifications will be.
So let's talk about a little overview of insurance. Obviously, Sean is not an insurance agent. I'm not an insurance agent. If you need to talk to somebody, Sean works with various different insurance agents. So we're just going to give broad generalities here, but we just have to make clear that we're not insurance agents.
Yeah, and obviously, so we can kind of talk about, again, broad brush type things. If we want to get into technicalities like specific homes and developments, obviously reach out to me and I'll have an insurance agent look at the situation just to kind of give you a sense of what's out there, because it really is a case-by-case basis. It's not, again, depending on the development, depending on where it's located, all these things will have a pretty big effect on what that insurance will look like.
So let's first talk about the cost. So our costs going to go up. There was actually a recent article in the Orange County Register that was talking about this. So I'll link to this below, but then do you want to just talk about, what's happening? Obviously, again, we're in the fog of war. We don't know exactly what's happening, but what are you seeing on the ground? Because, sometimes people think you can't even get insurance now.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're on the ground. So you have deals right now. People are getting homeowners insurance. So what's sort of happening?
Yeah, exactly. Well, first, this is an interesting actual article. And again, it sounds a little alarmist in that it's saying it's going to soar. Now,
the prices are going to soar.
Now, what the thing is, you have to put that into context, because surprisingly, I think a lot of people are kind of surprised to hear this. California's insurance rates as it currently stands is way low compared to what's happening across the country. Florida is super high, Texas is really high. California's actually on the lower end. I think that we're ranked 40th, right?
Or maybe even 41st.
Yeah, which is kind of surprising because obviously we certainly have our share of natural disasters, as well as we have a very high-priced properties in general. So you would think those things would kind of make insurance rates pretty high, high anyway. It doesn't affect everywhere it's the same, of course, but at the same time, we are, so that's just kind of so yes, I think that they're artificially low. They needed to kind of reset to a bit higher to take into account all these factors. And so we're going to start to see that happen more now. And in fact, actually, what was kind of keeping these prices low to an extent was that the insurance department, in California was kind of butting heads with various insurance companies where how they were pricing out their policies wasn't making sense to the insurance companies, where there's just way more risk for them to take on for what they could collect in premiums. So actually, in fact, a lot of companies actually paused or actually exited the state in giving us ultimately less options as far as insurance is concerned. Now, good news is that's looking like it's starting to thaw, where they're going to kind of come to, some sort of, there's going to be more options for insurance companies. We never want to hear that they can charge more, but at the same time, we want more variety too. So again, let the marketplace kind of play it out. So before we continue, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Sean Dezahd.
And I'm Courtney Dezahd.
And we're licensed realtors here in the state of California. And if you're watching this channel, you might be thinking, wow, Sean, I love Orange County. I love the Pacific Ocean. I love the perfect weather. I can't wait to move it here. Now, the problem is I'm not local. I may be out of state. I may be even out of the country, so I don't know what to do. I totally get that. That's when you reach out to us. We can have that conversation, really finding out specifically what you're looking for, and we can be your boots on the ground. We can do virtual tours of the homes as well as the neighborhoods, really giving you a good feel of what's out there for you. So when you do come out here, your time is spent super efficiently. So what you would do is then give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country. And then just to give you an idea of the sort of numbers that we're talking about, so this is from the article. So, the typical insurance premium for Florida is $6,620 per year, and then conversely, California is only $2,080 per year when we have similar risk factors. So
yeah, obviously with Florida, they have hurricane insurance, flood insurance, all that stuff. Now we have fire insurance, but that's kind of built into our policy. There is earthquake insurance that you can tack on, as well as in Orange County, it feels like it's not as much of a thing. Now, this is depending on where you are. So in LA, I feel like this happens way more often. But basically, we have less flood and mudslide concerns than, let's say, it seems like in LA it happens a lot, basically.
Yeah.
Whereas here, just the way it's
depending
set
on
up,
the topography, it's more flat here.
Yeah, and we used to have like more areas that were like in flood zones and that kind of thing. But the Army Corps of Engineers years ago kind of reconfigured some of these. Like it kind of it made these rivers. Now they're not rivers in the sense of like you think of Mississippi River. They're basically waterways to kind of get the water out, like out to the Pacific Ocean as quickly as possible. And so basically, what that happened was it kind of actually lessened the flood potential that was taking place here before.
And then do you want to talk about, obviously, not every area in Orange County or LA is, that prone to wildfires.
Yeah.
I think that's what people get confused by if they're not from Southern California. They think, oh, the entire city burned down. No, that's not what happened.
Exactly.
And, you can reach out to us. There is an Orange County Fire Authority map that we can give to you that gives you the areas that are, more susceptible. And it typically is where there's, large swaths of undeveloped land. That tends to be where it is.
Yeah, so like canyons, if you're abutting, let's say the Cleveland National Forest, which really isn't a forest by like huge trees, it's more like shrubs and brush, which is great for fire fuel, of course. But so if you're like on that front line, if a fire takes place, as great as firefighters are, it's, again, there is a lag of time to get to the fire. So if you're on that front line, you're obviously more prone. So there are obviously these maps that we can certainly send you depending on what you're interested in, like what areas you're interested in, that can show you like what are the elevated layers of fire danger. And then of course, with that comes obviously more susceptibility to fires. Obviously, insurance is going to be either like harder to come by or very expensive. And, so there are all those factors to come into play for sure. And then also beyond just fire insurance for like, let's say single family residences, also what you do have is what's called HO6 policies. These are condo coverage policies. So let's say you're buying a townhouse or condominium. Typically, the development itself has what they call a master insurance policy that kind of has the major fire insurance stuff. That's what they call walls, typically is a walls out policy. So whatever happens to the exterior of the home, the common area, that's covered by the insurance. And then walls in is what this HO6 policy is. That's basically a supplemental coverage that basically gets you fire insurance for what happens within your dwelling, right? And so that can also vary. So depending on if there were previous claims there, like let's say someone had a flood not that long ago, this would go for houses too, that might make it harder to get insurance because there were, insurance companies are a little bit hesitant with, like, let's say claims that took place in the last 5 years, for instance. So you want to, again, that's why when you're interested in a property, we need to actually jump in as early as possible. Let's say we have an accepted offer. You want to contact your insurance agent ASAP, so that way they can start to get the policy underwritten to find out who's the actual, who you're going to ultimately go with. Are you fine with what that pricing is and all those things.
And then let's talk about, how is this going to affect the Orange County housing market in general? Because obviously there are a number of people who are now displaced. Are they going to move? Are they going to rebuild?
Yeah. So, so there are homes that let's say we're going to be typically going to be coming on the market that no longer are. There are people that are displaced that need to find a place. Now, in general, I don't think that's going to be a huge bleed into Orange County because Orange County obviously is a very different vibe than LA. We do live in the orange bubble. So, there are going to be pockets. Like, for instance, I actually saw an article today where it's saying that Newport Beach is experiencing a surge of demand because of people that are displaced in those fires. And I'm going like, that makes sense. Obviously, especially like these, particular beach cities, I could see that being, an extra draw. But as a general whole, we're not seeing, across the board, huge uptick for sure.
Yeah. And then obviously, I don't know when you're going to be watching this video. One day from now, it's probably going to be a little bit different because Sean was saying, we're kind of it's all still working itself out. So.
Yeah. And the thing is that people are getting insurance policies. I know that, I've had people reaching out to me asking me, okay, can I get policy here or there? Because they're hearing from someone, for instance, if you're calling an actual company themselves, they may give you a specifically, this is, I would say, a better time than ever to actually have an insurance broker helping you because they kind of reach out to the various insurance companies to really kind of see who's the right fit that will actually ensure what you're looking for, because some of these companies are pausing, right? So that we got to be mindful of that. And obviously we want to make sure that staying within the contract timelines of when you're trying to buy a property, that it may take a couple weeks to really kind of dial in that insurance policy. And remember, we are licensed realtors here in the state of California. So as much as we love making these videos, what we love more is to help you with your real estate needs. So whether you're looking to buy or sell a home, what you want to do is when you give us a call or shoot us a text.
Yes, that number is a cell phone, so you can call us or text us, or you can use WhatsApp if you're outside the country.